everyone. Welcome back to Champion the Passion, a weekly pro wrestling podcast where we inspire you to champion your passions and celebrate the joy in what you love. I'm your host. My name is Victoria Daisy, and today we're going to be recapping everything that happened at the 2025 WWE Royal Rumble. Now, the Royal Rumble was just a couple days ago, and I was in Indianapolis for it. So I got to see it firsthand right in front of my eyes and experience all the greatness. Now, before we dive deep, don't forget to leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms and Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. And if you guys want to see my reactions to every single entrant for both the men and women's rumbles, those reactions are all out on this YouTube channel. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple, you can head to my YouTube channel, which is at It's Victoria Daisy. Now, let's get into the Rumble. So we started with the women's Royal Rumble. Now, last Rumble, we started with the men. So this was a fun little surprise. So let's dive deep into the match. So the first two entrants were Io Sky and Liv Morgan. Now, I just have to say, I absolutely love their in-ring chemistry. I think they are so entertaining together. They have pretty similar, like, high-fly type of wrestling styles. So it kind of, I think, meshed really well. And that greatness didn't last for long. Because coming in at number 3, we had my op. If you guys have been following me for a while, you already know Roxanne Perez is somebody who I do not like very much, and she came out at number 3. And the fact that I've had to witness this 3 years in a row is an absolute tragedy. It was terrible. But one thing I found a little bit weird is that the next few entrants were Lyra Valkyria and Chelsea Green, and they came out back to back. Now, the reason why I think it's a little strange is because they're both mid-card champions, and like while they still can and did enter the Rumble, I think having them come out back-to-back is a little strange. There's no huge issue about with it, but just in my opinion, it felt a little strange. I don't know, just me. And then I have to give some props to Chelsea, because one thing I love about Chelsea is her character and how expressive she is. She takes every opportunity and maximizes it. She's sassy, funny, and it just really adds the cherry on top to her as a package. And I absolutely loved it. One thing I will say, though, on the flip side is I was very disappointed by the amount of filler wrestlers. And I hate to say filler because I know at the end of the day, like, obviously Triple H values them to an extent to be able to put them in this Rumble. And I know there are people who are fans of these women, but I think the majority of us aren't, like Sonya Deville, Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, B-Fab. You know, it's just like, why? Why do we need them in the Rumble? We really don't. I mean, we all know they're not going to win, so what's the point? And I know it's like, what's the point for the other 29 other women? Like, I get that, but like, at least make it believable. Like, we know for a fact that they are just not going to win. So I don't know. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I just wasn't crazy about it. And then it made me want to not care about the match. Even though I did, it made me not want to. One thing I will say, though, again, on the flip side, a positive note, if you will, is the representation for NXT. Oh my God. If you guys know me, you know how much I love NXT. NXT will always hold a special place in my heart. I mean, NXT is the next people in line. I mean, they are the next generation and who are going to continue to carry on the legacy of WWE when that time comes. So the women that we had from NXT did exceptionally well for this being their first ever Rumble appearance. We got to see Lash Legend, Jada Parker, Stephanie Vaquer, and the NXT Women's Champion, Julia. And all 4 of them, like I said, just did so well, especially this being their first Rumble. I loved that the crowd really popped for most of them. Julia probably didn't get the biggest pop out of the 4, which is confusing because she's the champion. But I will say, probably out of all of them, I think Stephanie got the biggest pop. If I had to rank pop-wise, especially being in the room when it happened, if you know what I mean, I would say Stephanie got the biggest pop, then Jada, then Lash, then Julia, which is crazy. But it was still very awesome to see all of them and really get that great representation of NXT in this Women's Royal Rumble, and also show the girls that are there now and the legends that were there, like, this is who's next in line. You got to watch out. Another thing that I would like to mention that I thought was pretty interesting is Maxine Dupree eliminated Ivy Nile. And while some people probably thought she shouldn't have eliminated her because, Maxine shouldn't be eliminating Ivy, I actually disagree. I thought it was really good. Week in and week out, Ivy has always bullied Maxine, and Maxine never really gets to stand up for herself. But now she finally got her lick back, her revenge, if you will, by ruining her chance at gold. And now, not that Ivy had any chance, if you will, but storyline wise, I thought it was really great. And I hope that's something that they get to play off of tonight on Monday Night Raw. There were so many great spots in this match that made out for some pretty incredible moments. I think when you're there live, another point I wanted to make is I think when you're there live, you're so focused on the adrenaline and the excitement of who's coming out next. And especially if you're like me and you didn't sit front row, you're not going to be fully focused on every little thing that's going to happen in the ring when you're not watching on TV, that you're focused on who's coming out, right? So I was focusing on all the fillers, right? So in my head, I was like, okay, this is a crappy Royal Rumble. But in my opinion, when I rewatched it last night and I was taking notes for this episode, I really appreciated it 1,000 times more and I enjoyed it 1,000 times more. I think when you stop expecting and putting all these super high bars and expectations for what a Rumble should be, and you just enjoy whatever they give you, I think you can appreciate it 1,000 times more. Now, coming in at number 19, we had the long-awaited return of Jordynne Grace. I'm just kidding. It wasn't that long. But Jordynne Grace is somebody who originally debuted in the WWE last year at the 2024 Royal Rumble. She was the TNA Knockouts champion at the time and was still with TNA. Now she's officially signed to a multi-year deal with the WWE and now is officially a WWE superstar. So getting her in this Rumble was so amazing. She showed up and showed out. I'm so proud of her. Loved that we got to see her. Now, a big question is she going back to NXT, or not back to NXT, but is she going to NXT or main roster? Honestly, I don't know. There was no indications when the contract was announced, even in the Rumble. I don't know. I would love to see her on main roster, but I don't know. She might go to NXT for a little bit, which I wouldn't mind that much. One thing I gotta say about Jordynne is that her strength is absolutely outstanding, and I'm just, like I said before, just so happy that she's a part of the WWE. Now, 2 entrants later, at number 21, we had the truly long-awaited surprise return of Alexa Bliss. Now, if you watched my reaction videos, which is, if you didn't, I will leave the playlist of my pro wrestling videos in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And if not, you can go onto my YouTube and watch it. I absolutely lost my mind. Alexa is somebody who I grew up watching and have always had a soft spot for in my heart. And, leading up to this Rumble, her team and WWE, apparently, according to reports, weren't able to come to an agreement for a contract. Apparently, WWE wanted her to sign to an old contract and her team wanted her to sign to a new one because I guess her old one had time left on it. And I don't know if that's true or not, to be quite honest with you, but I am very happy regardless that they, met and got an agreement done and signed a contract, and she's here now. There's apparently reports that she will show up on Monday Night Raw as soon as tonight. So that should be very interesting. I don't know if she'll stay on Raw or if she'll go on SmackDown, but I really hope that we can see her, on a week-to-week basis, all ready to go. And I'm just really, really happy that she's back. One thing I will say is she probably got the biggest pop of the night. I think against anybody. I think the close second was Nikki Bella, and I don't even know who else could have. John Cena was up there, but the thing is we already knew he was coming. Same thing with Charlotte Flair and Roman Reigns and stuff like that. But I definitely do think she got the biggest pop of the night. It was something none of us expected, and I thought it was just absolutely amazing. Also, I want to mention that she has a new theme song once again. I feel like every time she comes back from being gone for a while, she has a new theme song. And this is probably like her 7th theme song. But one thing I will say is, I grew up listening to Spiteful. If you guys are aware of her theme songs, her 2nd theme song when she turned heel, is called Spiteful. It's the dun 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 dun. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it's that one. Now, ever since Spiteful came out, that was the best thing I ever heard in my entire life. That was one of my favorite theme songs of all time, and it still is to this day. And every time she would return with a new theme song, when it was when she was Five Feet of Fury or the Stand Up, Shut Up and Fight Me, that whole thing, like, I hated it. So I knew nothing was ever going to compare to Spiteful, but I think this new one is going to give it a run for its money. I can't wait for it to drop on Spotify and Apple and YouTube and all that stuff. And it's a banger. I feel like the best way I could describe it is Spiteful, her old theme song, EO Sky, like a hint of EO Sky's theme, and a bit of like her 5 Feet of Fury theme. It's like a bit of like an EDM trap remix situation. I don't know. It's amazing. She still kept the da-na, 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 but like she slowed it down a bit, and there's like, it's really awesome. I think it is already on Spotify or YouTube if you want to go check it out. It is amazing. But the crowd was so loud that I couldn't even hear it, not only in the stadium, but on TV as well. It was actually insane. Now, let's jump along. Charlotte Flair came out at number 27, but we already, been there, done that. We know that. Let's move on to number 30. Now, number 30 is always notorious for a great surprise. Now, that didn't happen in the men's rumble, which we'll talk about later, but in the women's Royal Rumble, we got one of the surprises of a lifetime. Now, there was little inklings that maybe this would happen, but not really anything anyone was sure of. And I don't think that the possibilities for this were super high, so nobody really expected it too much. But at number 30, we got the return of the fearless Nikki Bella. Bella Army Unite. Oh my God. Nikki Bella is one of the first superstars I ever was a huge fan of when I was very, very young, before Sasha Banks came in the picture, because you guys know Sasha Banks is my girl forever and always. Mercedes Moné, my queen. But before her, it was Nikki Bella. She was my obsession, and she still is to this day. I am about to go order that new Fearless shirt that hit the website because I need it. And she's just always been one of my faves, her and Brie. And so getting to have, a piece of my childhood right before my eyes was so amazing. It's one of the reasons why I love professional wrestling, getting to see John Cena, getting to see Nikki Bella, Alexa Bliss, AJ Styles return, like all these big returns of people that I grew up watching. It was priceless. Words truly cannot describe the feeling I felt in that moment. Now, there was a lot of speculation for who was going to come out at number 30. I thought for sure Jade Cargill was going to return. That didn't happen. So I was like, ooh. Becky Lynch was rumored. I mean, hell, even AJ Lee was rumored to return, which we all knew that wasn't going to happen, but it was fun speculation while it lasted. CM Punk definitely fed our delusions with that one. If you guys saw Jackie Redmond's video backstage on Raw, I think like a week or two ago. And I mean, yeah, we didn't get her, but one name above all that I was really secretly hoping for, even more than Jade, even though I wanted Jade a lot, was Nikki. I mean, she looked amazing. She looked like she didn't miss a step. She performed so well in that ring for being out for 3 years. That's how long she's been gone from the WWE. And it seems that we'll see her more throughout this year, which I'm ecstatic about. She did a little backstage video that WWE posted, and she was like, hey, Bella Army, or Nikki Bella's back. Stay tuned because you might see more of me, or something like that. And so I thought that was so exciting. I'm not expecting her to be on like a full-time schedule, obviously, but I would definitely love to see her a couple more times, maybe at WrestleMania. I don't know. I think it could be absolutely amazing. Now, one thing I wanted to touch before we move on to my next point from this Rumble is the fact that in the post-press conference, if you will, Triple H did say that there are still a lot more returns to happen in the WWE, and he was specifically talking about the women, so I don't freaking know what that means. That was the most alarming thing he could have ever said in my entire life, and now I'm scared. Moving on, something that was so baffling to me is that the final two were Charlotte Flair and, most concerningly, Roxanne Perez. Now, earlier, you guys know I don't like her. I'm sorry to whoever told her that she was good enough to be in the final two. I don't get it. That was not deserved at all. I was so petrified that Roxanne was about to win that thing. That was one of the worst moments of my entire life. And then it just got even more worse because then Charlotte Flair won. Now, I have a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to Charlotte, and then Charlotte's return, and then her winning the Rumble. Now, obviously being a Sasha Banks fan, my resentment for Charlotte is strong. and it has been there for well over a decade. Going back to the original era of the Four Horsewomen, Charlotte was always looked at as the best in the four. And I think Sasha was always the underdog, and, being a diehard Sasha fan, that was really a hard pill to swallow. So I've always had resentment towards Charlotte. Now, when it comes to Charlotte's return, I was very excited. I was so happy to have the Queen back, another member of the Four Horsewomen. But when it comes to Charlotte winning the Royal Rumble, I was not happy about that. I don't like the fact that she came out of nowhere and just won. And she's now going to probably take Tiffy's title at WrestleMania, which I really hope they don't do, because it's like, I get you're all about making Charlotte's legacy mean something and a big deal and all this stuff, but like one day she's not going to wrestle again. One day she's going to retire, and you're going to need people to continue on that legacy, not just for her, but for the WWE, and have their own legacy cemented in the ground, if you will. And I feel like Tiffany Stratton could be one of those people that has an extremely beautiful legacy, but that will never happen if you just have Charlotte Flair take her title at WrestleMania when she literally just won it. She literally just won it like a month ago. So I don't think it's fair at all. I don't think she's going to pick Rhea Ripley at all. I mean, been there, done that. Rhea beat her for the title 2 years ago at WrestleMania. So there's no point to go after Rhea. It's probably going to be Tiffy. And, that's a match that we've really all wanted for a while. It's a dream match, some consider. So I think the only way for Tiffy to retain is if they continue to build her up to be a big threat, continue to build her up to be this big star. And when it comes with building her up that way, one thing I don't like that they've done is when a perfect example was a week or two ago on SmackDown, when all of the women came out, when Rhea was out there, Liv was out there, Nia was out there. If you remember that very chaotic segment on SmackDown, Tiffy literally got up and left. And that's not what a champion should do. She should not back down from competition. She should not back down from threats. She should stand up to them. I mean, Rhea was in there doing that, and I think that takes credibility away from Tiffany, and that really sucks. But I think if you want her to retain and make it believable against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, I mean, you got to do that. That's what they did with Rhea. I mean, she beat Charlotte at WrestleMania. We didn't think Rhea was going to beat her. I mean, I didn't. I wanted her to, but I didn't think she would. So I thought that was crazy. But I don't know. I'm like slightly conflicted because it's it's like it's great to see Charlotte back, but I don't want her to have gold. I don't want her to take up space in the locker room when other women need to be the ones shining. All of them have carried this company on their back. For example, Rhea Ripley, for the time that she's been gone, and I feel like the company's been better since she was gone. That's probably a hot take, but whatever, I digress. Moving on into the second match of the night, we had a 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWE Tag Team Championships, DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, you guys know, if you've been listening and watching and following for a while, then you know that these two tag teams are two of my all-time favorite tag teams in professional wrestling. So I was absolutely living for this match, and obviously I got to see it live, so it was like dream match material in my head. Now, I think I hyped this up a little too much in my head, more than I should have, to be honest. I mean, it didn't live up to the expectation I had, but that's because of shenanigans that happened at the end, which I think sort of made up for it. I will say my biggest takeaway, though, is at the end of the match. While the match was fantastic, I really enjoyed it, love a 2 out of 3 falls match, the Street Profits made a statement. Okay, at the end of this match, the Street Profits took out the Motor City Machine Guns while the ref wasn't looking to help DIY win, so we thought. And when the match ended, they took them out too. The Street Profits have been doing heelish things for quite some time now, but Saturday night was their official heel turn to solidify this new era for the Street Profits. They're making themselves a threat. They're making themselves feel like the real deal, like the tag team in the WWE. And we know that they have this potential, and they've sort of brought them up to that in times, but I would love for this to be a really great run for them. I mean, they seem to be dominant, and they have a new attitude and a new drive and motivation. And I think the only way I could see them being a real threat is if they can actually take the tag titles away from DIY. While I want DIY to stay champions because, I love them, it's what needs to happen in order for them to be taken seriously. I mean, I think there was a time maybe in 2021 or 2023. No, 2022. Sorry, I'm getting my years mixed up. 2022, I think they were taken seriously and a big deal. They were tag champs at the time, and I would love for them to get back to that place, but even better. And I think the only way for them to do that is reclaiming gold and being a top storyline on a show. Now, speaking of top storyline on a show, let's move on to the ladder match for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Cody Rhodes defending against Kevin Owens. Now, this has been a phenomenal storyline, something I've really enjoyed keeping up with week to week. This was an absolutely unreal match, okay? Sometimes in ladder matches, it doesn't get that intense, and it's almost boring, but this match was the exception. It was different. It was amazing. There was blood, broken ladders, and the match even went to the crowd a couple of times, which I loved. Now, towards the end, Sami Zayn came out, and that was a little sus for a minute. There was a moment of not knowing what Sami was out there for, what he was going to do. I thought he was going to help Kevin win, and I was scared about that, to be honest. Now, with how this evolving storyline has gone, he really could have been out there for a plethora of reasons, but ultimately he was out there to be by Kevin's side, which we all suspected. Now, there was one moment when I thought something could come out of this, and that was at the end of the match. Cody Rhodes was on top of the ladder in the ring, raising both championships high over his head, and Cody was trolling Kevin Owens from up there, basically just staring at him with holding the two belts, but something interesting. Sami and Cody looked at each other, and you can tell that there was definitely tension there. I thought that was interesting. I mean, I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. I thought Sami might get in the ring and attack him, but obviously we know Sami has had some friend issues recently with Seth Rollins accidentally haluva kicking him, and then the same thing to Cody Rhodes. I mean, he is losing friends by the week and by the day, by the minute, by the second. Like, it's really bad. And so now that we've had that little moment where Sami seems to truly be sticking by Kevin's side and not caring about his other friends in a way, I'm intrigued to see how that's going to plan out on Raw, on SmackDown. I think that's going to be really interesting. Now, moving on into the main event, we had the men's Royal Rumble match. Now, this was leaps and bounds better than the women's, and I hate to compare, but obviously, how could we not? This was probably, I just going to say this now before I even recap it. This was the best men's Royal Rumble match I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm being dead serious. I have seen dozens and dozens and dozens of Royal Rumbles over the years, and nothing has compared to what I witnessed Saturday night at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. It was unreal. Now, the first two entrants were Rey Mysterio and Penta, and oh my god, this was amazing. Obviously, we both know that they are luchadors, so we got to see some impeccable wrestling from the two of them. Now, I hope one day in the future they can revisit this and create maybe even a feud between the two, because their in-ring chemistry is insane. It is so intense and so fast-paced and quick, and I loved it. Now, something I appreciated that was the first four entries, that first four lineup, if you will, was crazy. We had Rey Mysterio, Penta, Chad Gable, and Carmelo Hayes. All four men have very similar wrestling styles, so seeing them all collide was amazing. Now, I've praised Chad Gable for so long. I think he is such an incredible wrestler. I think he deserves more credit than he gets. And obviously, Carmelo Hayes is an up-and-coming rising star, if you will. I mean, I think he has so much potential. And getting to see him in the ring with those other three men were just incredible. Now, lots of great spots in this Rumble as well that left us with absolutely unforgettable moments. Now, Braun Breaker came out at number 7, which was amazing. And he absolutely dominated that Rumble for the time that he was in there. He's somebody I could see winning the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship one day. I think he is the definition of championship material. I mean, or not championship material, of champion material. I mean, he reminds me of a young Roman Reigns, if you will. Yeah, he reminds me of a young Roman Reigns, and I think, you know, you never know who's going to turn out to be like a John Cena, like a Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? You never know who's going to be your big star. And I definitely do think he has all the ingredients to be that. And especially with his showcase in the Rumble Saturday night, it was amazing. Now, something that I thought was amazing is at number 8, it was supposed to be Akira Tozawa coming out, but during his entrance, Carmelo Hayes attacked him, so he couldn't enter the Royal Rumble. Now, we've seen this quite a few times over the years when this happens, and we usually know that a return, a debut, something exciting is going to happen. That person will take their place. And so the camera follows Tozawa into Gorilla, and Triple H is there examining him, basically being like, you know, you can't wrestle. And if you guys have been following what's been going on with iShowSpeed, he was live streaming backstage the entire Royal Rumble, talking to different superstars, and at that point he was already in gorilla position with Stephanie McMahon live streaming, and Triple H looks at iShowSpeed and says, okay, Speed, go, you're in the Rumble, get out there right now. And Speed was like, what the hell, like, I don't know what to do. And I thought this was such a cool moment, especially being a content creator, getting to see him do that as a content creator, knowing the opportunities like that are out there is so inspiring. And I just got to say, Speed is such a funny guy. And with the few minutes that he was in there, he just made a great moment. And it was great. It was so funny. Now, one thing I want to mention is there are so many fantastic powerhouses that made this match 10 times more exciting. For example, Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker, Sheamus, Braun Strowman, etc. I absolutely loved it. Now, speaking of powerhouses, but in a bit of a different way, maybe Star Power. Say his name, and he appears. Coming in at number 15, we had the TNA World Champion, Joe Hendry. Now, you guys know how much I love Joe Hendry. I've raved about him since day one. Literally, I mean, it's been a year and a half that I've been a fan of this man. He is absolutely incredible. One thing I was sad about, though, in the Men's Rumble is that there were no NXT appearances. I was hoping for a Trick Williams, an Obafemi, if you will. And we didn't get any of that. And I was also sad that we didn't get really any TNA debuts, if you will, or appearances in both the men's and women's Rumble. I wouldn't even consider Jordynne Grace a TNA appearance because she's now with the company. And all we got was Joe Hendry, which, you know, if that's all we're going to get, I'm glad they picked him because he was the perfect person and we all really, really wanted him. But it was just, you know, it was just kind of sad. But I will say I am very pleased with the fact that Joe Hendry was the one picked. I mean, his star power is crazy, and he really looked like a big-time player out there. If he ever does come to WWE full-time, I mean, I definitely do think he'd fit in perfectly. And you know what? I hope to see him back soon. Now, coming in at number 17, we have the OTC Roman Reigns, who, might I say, just absolutely cleared house. Seeing Roman Reigns come into the Royal Rumble for the first time in about 4 or 5 years was absolutely unreal. I mean, he didn't get that big of an entrance either, so it was giving Humble King. We love to see him. Now, one thing I have noticed is that Roman Reigns, ever since winning back the Ula Fala, but not being champion, and also just in 2025, I feel like he has a bit of a different attitude. I mean, I've seen him smile a bit more. I've seen him be a little bit more funny and down to earth, which I really love. Now, one thing about this, though, that really caught my attention is that Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu had a little moment in the ring. And I hope and pray, like I really do, that could lead to something bigger in the future. I mean, this is a WrestleMania main event caliber match, Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. And them going at it in the ring was insane. Now, speaking of Fatus and the bloodline and their family, coming in at number 20, we had main event Jey Uso. Now, let me just say, when he came out, I had chills. I mean, you guys know I was at Lucas Oil Stadium for the Royal Rumble, and getting to yeet with 65,000 plus other people is the most unreal experience of all time. I've never yeeted with that many people in my life, and I probably will never yeet with that many people ever again because it was just so insane. The crowd was so alive for Jey during that entrance and during the match, and obviously, if you watched, we'll get to him at the very end. But moving on into number 21, we had the long-awaited return and a nice surprise of AJ Styles. Now, to be honest, I totally forgot about AJ. I'm being dead serious, but it was a great surprise. So happy to have him back, and I thought he had a great showcase in the Rumble, so I'm very intrigued to see what storylines they plug him into. Now, coming in at number 3, we had the man of the hour, John Cena. This kicks off truly his farewell tour. I mean, I know he was at Raw, Netflix's debut, but this was his first match, if you will, back, his last Royal Rumble, and getting to see that again live is just insane. When he came out, I felt so many emotions. I mean, John Cena is somebody I grew up watching, just like CM Punk, just like Nikki Bella, like I mentioned earlier. And John Cena has always been a staple in my fandom, and I think in so many other people's fandoms as well. And so getting to see him live for the first time in probably maybe a decade, to be honest, I haven't seen him live in a very long time, was just the most surreal experience of all time. I mean, it was just so insane. And I'm so thankful and lucky that I get to say that I witnessed his last Royal Rumble live. And I think I'd be lying if I said I didn't shed a tear when he came out. I mean, if you watch my reaction video, you see my eyes get watery. I mean, it was just insane. But the fun doesn't end there. Papa H, aka Triple H, decided to serve us a 5-course meal because not only did John Cena come out to the ring, but right after, at number 24, walks out my king, CM Punk. Now, I'm sorry, getting to have Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and John Cena all in the same ring is insane. Those are my goats. Those are the men I grew up watching. And that was the most surreal experience. Now, if you're a little bit older, a little bit younger, it might not have hit the same. But for me and my generation, this was for me. Okay? Now, but wait. The fun doesn't end there, because right after that, at number 25, we had Seth freaking Rollins. And this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, we have multiple storylines going on all at once and with just these few men. And this is where all the crap hits the fan, if you know what I mean. I mean, we have storylines between CM Punk and Seth Rollins. We have Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. We have Roman Reigns and John Cena. We have John Cena and CM Punk. I mean, Drew McIntyre was still in there. So there was just so much going on. And that 5-course meal was delicious. It was amazing. And I just could not believe. Now, later on in the match, something that really piqued my interest is that Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins went at it. Okay? And I hope that this is them planting the seed for a new feud in the future between these two. I mean, obviously, we know their history. It's something that we're very accustomed to, but the crowd was very intrigued into what was going down, and I know I was too. So I would love for them to reopen that and go back at it, because it seems like there's still a lot of hatred between them. More so coming from Seth, but definitely it's still there with Roman. Now, the final two were Jey Uso and John Cena. And let me just say, the energy in Lucas Oil Stadium with those two were unmatched. I have never felt or been a part of something that crazy before. I mean, I loved how I couldn't tell to the very end who was going to win that Royal Rumble. I mean, John Cena was the odds-all favorite, but so was Jey Uso, and I think he was somebody we didn't fully see coming as the winner, but in the end, main event Jey Uso won. I loved the ending. If you guys didn't get to see it, please go watch just at least the ending, because it was so good. I loved that spot. I mean, this was an extremely well-deserved win, and I could not be more happy for Jey. I mean, WrestleMania is going to be Yeet Mania now, and I think it's finally time that he will be beating Gunther. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind Gunther's retaining after that point, but I love the story they've been building with Gunther and Jey, and it's all worth it now because he won the Royal Rumble. I mean, I think it was also worth mentioning that it was so special that John Cena got to be in the final two with Jey, and that Jey got to have that moment with somebody as big as John Cena, because it shows that Jey truly is a main eventer. He truly is main event Jey Uso, and he can hang with the big names. Now, I think the next thing moving forward for him is to win that title. Like I said, I mean, Yeet Mania in full progress. If they don't make merch out of that, first of all, I'm going to be so mad. But at this point, you can't take Jey that far to lose. It's just not happening. It's literally just not happening. Now, overall, I would say that this was a fantastic show. I know people have their reservations about the Women's Rumble and their reservations about some matches, but I mean, obviously I have the bias of being there and getting to experience it live, then having the luxury of getting to come home and rewatch it to then take notes for the episode. Obviously, I have the bias of being there live, so of course everything was 10 times better, but truly it was such a historic and unforgettable night. I mean, the Men's Rumble, like I mentioned at the beginning when I recapped it, was insane, and I definitely say, like, with my chest wholeheartedly 100% that this was the best Men's Rumble I've ever seen in my entire life. It was so insane. I think between both Rumbles we got so many amazing returns, appearances, debuts, and blockbuster moments. Now I'm so excited to tune into Raw, NXT, and SmackDown this week to see what goes down. I mean, Raw is literally tonight, and so much is going to happen. And you know, one thing I do want to say when it comes to Monday Night Raw is, you know, WWE, ever since moving to Netflix now, doesn't have a time restraint. So they've been kind of making the shows 2.5 hours every week, except for Raw Netflix's debut, and it was 3.5. But I definitely do think that tonight is probably going to go 3.5, which is so exciting. And before I end this podcast episode, obviously, this is a recap of the Royal Rumble, and it wouldn't be complete if I didn't share a bit of my experience with you guys in Indianapolis. Now, I flew in Friday night, and then we were there on Saturday, and then we left Sunday morning, so yesterday morning, and it was such a fun trip. It was very short, very sweet, if you will. Little Sabrina Carpenter reference right there for you guys. So on Saturday, we went to the Superstore in the morning at the Indiana Convention Center. Now, that was so cool. There was so much merch, and I definitely do have to give props to whoever designs that merch. I definitely do think they hired somebody new because the merch has been off the charts recently, and I definitely did walk away with a couple of things. If you guys are watching, then you will see I have this Royal Rumble t-shirt. I don't know if you guys can see it if you're watching. I also got another one that said Royal Rumble Indianapolis, which was super cute. And then I got a John Cena farewell tour pop Funko, and then I got 2 action figures. I got CM Punk and Dirty Dom because there was just so many action figures and pop Funkos, and if you guys know me, you know I love collecting them, so it was just absolutely insane. And then after that, we headed over to the JW Marriott hotel, which was connected to the convention center, which is where WrestleCon happens. Now, I didn't meet anybody at WrestleCon, but it was really fun getting to walk around and just seeing all the legends and wrestlers really close up, and it was just cool walking around. And then what did we do after? Oh, we went into the Lucas Oil Stadium store, which is where the second unofficial Superstore was. It was a lot emptier there, but there were a couple other pieces of merch we got there. I also got the program, which basically is just a book kind of that is just all about this year's Royal Rumble, and it was really cool. And then what else did we do? Oh, we went to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is a historic landmark in Indianapolis and in our country. It's the most famous speedway, and it was so cool to see that. Obviously it wasn't open, but we got to go into the merch store and walk around a little bit and see the 360 seating for when the races happen, and it was just so cool. And then we headed back to the hotel to drop off our stuff, and then we headed to the stadium, and oh my god, guys, it was so cold. You guys know I'm a Florida girl. I live in Orlando, so going to the Midwest in February when it was 30 degrees was not easy. And we stayed in a line outside for about an hour and a half waiting to get into the stadium, which was crazy, but it's fine. We made it to our seats eventually. And all of this that I'm talking about, you can watch on my Royal Rumble weekend vlog that's coming out, I believe, on Thursday. So in 3 days, you get to watch everything I'm telling you now. And then we got there and then obviously experienced everything at the Rumble, and it was just so amazing and electric. And I can't wait to share more of it with you guys in the vlog. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this episode of Champion the Passion. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a 5-star review. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms and Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. Don't forget to champion your passions and celebrate the joy in what you love, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye!